welcome to ISU Redbirds Podcast, Episode 1. Today we have two topics. First, we're going to be talking about the transfer portal and the effects it has on college basketball. And second, we are going to be speaking with our special guest, Dan Muller, Redbird for Life, from 1994 to 1998. So I'm going to kick this over to Steve Thate.
Thanks, John. So I think, when you hear the words transfer portal, first thing, especially as a fan, you think you have this negative connotation, especially as a mid-major fan. You think of that player that you've invested time in, and all of a sudden they're in that portal. They'd send out that famous tweet, they thank God, their family, and then in the last paragraph they tell you that they've now decided to enter that transfer portal. But the transfer portal itself isn't the real issue. I mean, that's just something the NCAA has introduced 3-4 years ago, where they've enhanced the technology. I think what the transfer portal itself has done is, had a lot of transparency now. So you see almost instantaneously that a person's entered the portal, and information is just shared globally besides the Twitter account. The thing I think that's probably most disturbing is some of the things that's happening in the background. The rule changes that have been implemented. For example, like you can now transfer without having to sit out a year. The AAU environment that's influencing college basketball. Starts in high school, and I think players are used to moving between teams. That didn't happen perhaps when John, you and I played basketball in high school and stuff like that. You stayed with one team and you played with those guys for a long time. So the environment's already created, and then I think the other thing that's happened is the power shifting. The power really was with the schools and the coaches before, when you were in school, and now it's shifted more towards the players, and there's some good to that, okay, and then there's some things that with that power comes a lot of change, and I think coaches, fans, and players are all getting used to that right now. So the thing I would ask, John, is you went through a situation where Coach Donald was leaving, Coach Bender was coming in,
and not under his own accord either, right?
Not under his own accord, but a lot of changes happening, right, to the players.
Absolutely.
And why don't you tell us how that went down versus perhaps how it may have gone down if the portal was in place and some of those rules that we just talked about.
And so, I reached out to Sonny Roberts, who was my bookend in college, him, Gerard, Ricky, and Randy. And technically, Ricky and Randy are in the 86 class. Sonny are in that 85 class. So now fast forward to 1989. Now, mind you, I had to call Sonny this morning and get some cobwebs cleared out because that was 31 years ago. And so we were reminiscing about us going in to see Wellman, who was the athletic director, and basically informing us that we had two choices. One, stay at ISU and play another year, or two, transfer to a Division II school, because there just was, you had to sit out no matter what. There wasn't a waiver. There wasn't any of this stuff. We had never heard of that, and that stuff doesn't start until the 90s. So in the 80s, it was very different. And I would agree with you, Steve. Some of the power is coming to the players. And I think like all players, right, you want to try to go as high as possible because we all have that aspirations of playing on, whether that's the NBA or overseas or wherever. And so sometimes that works out to your benefit and you're the type of player that is better than the organization you picked. Sometimes you go too high, right? We saw a lot of times where guys picked, Illinois State, and they just weren't cut out mentally or physically to cut it at that level at Illinois State and transferred, and some of them are friends of mine still today, right? And they went and played Division II or Division III somewhere. And that's awesome, right? And now they get the better chance to do that. So you only get 5 years. Now there's a little loophole right now because of the whole free COVID year, which is just a big mess. But for the rest of us, for last 100 years, You get 5 years to finish 4. Period. End of story. You step on campus, that clock stops, and there is nothing that can stop that clock from ticking, except for COVID. So that's, yeah. And then COVID didn't stop the clock. COVID just threw an extra 365 days in. Right? That's all COVID did. So to boil that thing down. So, and to finish that story, so Sonny and I basically walk in. He says, listen, you either be Redbirds or go play Division II. We go out in the hallway. He brings in Ricky, Randy, and Gerard. Big Gerard and Sonny and I were the posts back then. Imagine having 3 big posts like that, and Scott Fowler, right? He was a sophomore, but basically says to those 3, we're out in the hallway, hey, look, you guys can go transfer somewhere, sit out a year, and then play the next year. You're going to have to decide. So he opens the door to call Sonny and I back in. I'm standing in the doorway, and I look at the 4 of them, and I reach out to Sonny, and I shake his hand and say, listen, I'm staying. Give him a hug. I walk up to Ricky, Randy, and Gerard and do the same thing. Shake their hand and say, it's been an honor. Give him a hug, and I'm staying. Look at Wellman. I'm like, going to the gym. I had a broken foot at the time. I'm going to get a lift in. It was Monday morning of class, and just wanted to get away from the media and stuff. So I left, and they all followed me down there, and we were all Redbirds. And so, that's the core team that will go on and win that Missouri Valley Conference Championship and play Michigan, and it's just an honor to have done that. But I'm not sure that would go on today. So back to you, Steve.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I think that's a great story. It all worked out for you guys. It ended with everyone going to an NCAA appearance, but it could have worked out differently. And I mean, you kind of said you were put in a situation where your choice was ISU or Division II. And this is probably where some of these changes, while the powers shifted, it's probably more equitable from a player's standpoint, that if the coach leaves, they have an opportunity to do what's best for them.
Agreed.
Yeah. I think in other cases, though, and this is where probably there's some frustration, is when you have, a player you recruit, right? You bring them in, let's say, as a freshman. It's an investment, right? You invest
Absolutely.
Time in that player. You develop that player. I mean, John, you start practices in the summer unofficially, and then officially.
You do today, didn't back then, but yes, today you're starting at mid-June, early July. You're getting 3-4 weeks of practicing.
Yeah, so you bring those players in, and I mean, most players are not ready as a freshman to step in and start. I mean, that's, especially when we're talking about, mid-major recruits, unless maybe there's been roster turnover or something like that, or you have those elite players. But you're bringing those players in, you're developing them. Sometimes it's physically developing, sometimes it's skills, right?
Yep.
Sometimes it's mentally, like learning the games faster and what you need to do, and defensively and offensively. But after doing all that and awarding that player who's worked hard, right, with playing time, and all of a sudden they decide to enter that portal, right? And when those players are getting enough minutes and it seems like it's a good fit, I think this is where, as a fan, we invest in those players too, right?
Absolutely.
And you get to know them and you're cheering for them and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden they're now entering the portal, and it's hard. So, as a coach, I think they're trying to get used to this new landscape, right? And I think it was probably more common that you wanted to have this balanced approach when you did the recruiting, like, bring the freshmen in, develop them, and make sure you have enough in each class. Maybe sprinkle in some junior transfers, or a couple transfers here and there to bring in leadership. But now, I don't know. Jon Diener, I'm curious, like, what do you think, if you're a mid-major coach, how would you, kind of approach this, and how would you recruit?
Well, yeah, obviously as a fan, what I would want to see, obviously, is what you were just talking about. I'd want to bring in a freshman, develop them, see them come out, see them go all the way through, develop, become as a great player, become, a terrific player for the team, and then I want to see them leave on senior night. But I know that isn't reality the way things are nowadays. It's more of a risk-reward type of situation where, do I take a risk on a freshman and develop them, see if we can get them to become a great player, and as opposed to trying to bring someone in off the transfer portal who I can get immediately, who can play right away, and I'm not investing a bunch of resources in developing that player just to have them transfer after 3 years after I put all these resources in there. So it's really a tough situation to be in as a coach nowadays, I think, to figure out, what is the right balance for that type of thing. I think you have to weigh that very carefully to see, what do you want to do?
All right. What's up next? I think it's show and tell, correct?
Yes.
So, in this segment of show and tell, I got to pull the basketball back. I have one of these, and this is the Missouri Valley Conference Championship basketball. Our next guest has two of them. And so we will go to a break, and we will bring in our special guest, Dan Muller. Hello, and welcome back. We are here today with Dan Muller, former ISU Redbird from 1994 to 1998. Like I said, I have one. He has two. So we're going to throw that over the back. Two. Mr. Muller, how are you doing?
Well, I'm awesome, number one. What an incredible honor to be the first guest. ISU Redbird Podcast, episode 1 of, I'm sure, thousands of future episodes to come. But I'm awesome, man. This is great. Can't wait to talk about some of the old glory days and chop it up with you guys.
So let's get started.
Let's do it.
Start giving us your favorite memories at ISU. You texted me a couple. We talked about a couple.
Yeah. Favorite memories as a player. Now, this is obviously the whole podcast. Well, you can ask whatever you want, obviously. But these were all my playing days, which most of my favorite memories are as a player. Of course, I've got a good handful of great memories as a coach, too. But I texted you a couple games, and some were wins and some were losses. Everybody's going to talk about, of course, the Tennessee game, the tournament win, which certainly was one of my greatest memories. I'll tell you this, though. When we lost to Arizona the next game, then we can talk about those two games whenever you want. I will never forget the locker room. And you know, John, you know how this
absolutely.
is. We go in the locker room, and that Arizona game, we were, I don't know if we were 8 or 9 seed. They were the 1 seed, of course. We went at halftime down 2. I hit a shot with 18 on the clock to tie it up.
Yeah.
And then they go on a 1,000-2 run, it felt like, in about 30 seconds. And it was so – I can still remember Coach called a timeout, of course, 15-0 run, something like that. We go back out, another 12-2 run, something like that. And I can remember in those moments thinking my career's over, like in the game.
Right.
But you're playing, you're competing. But we go in the locker room, and I've seen a lot of tears in locker rooms as a coach and as a player. Never been a part of more hard, heavy crying than in that locker room together because we were so close. We had 6 seniors. We had been together for so long. So that's one of my favorite memories. And it's the sad memory, but it also just – it was the ending of such a special time in my life, my 4 years as a player.
Yeah, and you and I talked about this on Mondays with Dan Muller during COVID, right? And I got to talk about my side of it. And our experience was very different, right? And so we were in it battling. We didn't win a game. We lost our first game to Michigan. And so, but yeah, very different. Now, I've been in locker rooms where we were very, guys were mad and crying, right? The DePaul game, getting that game stolen from us at home. Right. And so, all right. So talked about those two.
Yep.
You texted me NIT game. And CA, Chad Altadonna. My wife's like, you got to make sure you enunciate guys because we're all known by our nicknames, right? Yeah. CA and Kegel and
what was your nickname, John?
Big Pimp.
Big
Pimp, right?
Got it. See, I was D Mull, so D.
D Mull, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And guys will hear me refer as we watch other tapes and other players. You'll hear us go back. I knew you were D Mull because I came and practiced with you guys. Actually played in the gym during the summers, right? During Stallings' camp, right? And that's where you and I first met.
Beat us up.
All right, so you talked to CA about that NIT run.
Well, I'll talk about our two NIT runs. The first one was with Chad. We go out to Utah State, and here's another. Okay, so my freshman year, we finished second in the league, and we lost the championship game. That's not true. My freshman year, we lost in the semifinals to Southern Illinois, who went on to win the championship. No, it's Tulsa. They run together. So, a young freshman, I just turned 19, long year, hard year. Coach Stallings not easy to play for. And we hear we're making – so there's a week in between the conference tournament and the announcement. Coach Stallings comes in the locker room and says, we made the NIT. And our seniors are so excited. And us 5 or 6 freshmen are like, no, I want to go home. I'm telling you. And but we practiced, and, of course, I'm glad we played. We go out to Utah State, and just an unbelievable atmosphere, awesome game. Maurice Trotter. He had like 30. We go out there. We practice the day before the game. Kenneth Pearson, my roommate as a freshman, in practice dunks on me, and it was big time. And just an unbelievable environment. And what happens in postseason play is the more you win, of course, the more fun it gets. So we have that game. So much fun. Play Washington State at home.
Yeah.
After that, and I still remember, and fans will remember this, and some players.
I was at the game.
Yep. They go up, packed crowd. I mean, packed. They were really good. Kelvin Sampson was the coach, actually.
Yeah.
They go up 3. Coach Stallings doesn't call a timeout. Jamar Smiley, who didn't shoot a lot of threes, takes a desperation 3, at the buzzer, misses, and Coach caught a lot of heat for it. I remember that. And crushing loss, of course.
Yep.
My sophomore year, we go to the NIT again, and we were a higher seed. But that's the year we play Mount St. Mary's at home. We beat them we kill them.
A million points.
Then we go.
We were at that game too.
Yeah, and again, great atmosphere. I had a double-double that game, if I remember right. We go to Wisconsin, and that Wisconsin game was one of my favorite games, without a doubt. We go up to Wisconsin. I'm a sophomore. We had just won. Packed house, the old barn. And we had this not little, it was big, this section of ISU fans. And our benches here, and they were back here. They were back to my back left. And they were so loud. And we won that game kind of going away. And the ISU chants and cheers in the final minutes of that game, and when the horn went off, and of course all the players point up. Such a fun game. Unbelievable. One of the most fun games as a player.
I had a ticket on that bus, but my wife, I did. I had to give away that ticket because my wife is 9.5 months pregnant. Brooke will be born 8 days later, right? So there was no me getting on a bus or driving anywhere. Yeah, so I did not make that game, but that was a great game to watch.
You had a good excuse. 9.5 minutes. Yeah,
that Washington State game when Coop hits the 3 and ties the game up. Besides that Illinois State Southern game that you played in, John, the championship game, that was the loudest I heard that Redbird Arena. So it just erupted.
Oh, so loud. I went back, and I'm not great about remembering all the stuff from back in the day. But I went back, and I'm looking at a screen as I'm looking over here. And I went to my senior year, actually. And Wikipedia has the schedule, wins, loss, results.
Yep.
And they have the attendance, which that part I really appreciated. And so I look back, my senior year home attendance, these games, Pittsburgh, 9,600. Oakland, 8,700. Drake, 7,600. In the Southern, 9,400. Bradley, of course, sold out, 11,000. Wichita State, 10,000. Northern Iowa, 10,000. So just Redbird Arena being full as we continue to win. And when you're that age, you kind of take it for granted.
Yeah.
A little bit. And attendance is harder across the country. There's way more competition for everybody's dollars and entertainment. But that Washington State game was loud. I will tell you, as a coach, our game against Wichita State was equally as loud in 16-17. And was just
the dunk at the end when the
timeout. Yeah, I'll tell you a coach's story. And I know I said I'll stick with it.
Yeah, because we promised you we were only going to do Dan the player.
Yeah, I know.
You're breaking your own thing here.
Promise here. I'm going to a really good year. So we beat Wichita State early, and Kyle gets that dunk, and I call a timeout with about a minute left. We're up 14. And there was one reason I called the timeout, because I hated the other head coach. We wanted to get our defense set and all this BS. No, I wanted to rub it in. Well, fast forward, of course, and you'll maybe remember this. We play at their place on senior night.
Yeah.
That went on TV. You guys came out flat. I mean, you couldn't chew bubblegum and walk.
Well, not only that, Kyle was injured. He didn't even play.
He was injured.
Mm-hmm.
Teddy got 2 fouls in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Another play, somebody else got 2 fouls. So we were just they killed us. So and they pressed us the entire game. I mean, we're down 30. I had walk-ons in with 10 minutes left because it was a 2-day turnaround. So I said, you know what? But we're down 30. And old Greg with double G calls a timeout with 40 seconds left. And down 30. And the entire time he stares at our bench. And I didn't really care because that stuff didn't bother me. But after the game, one of the newspaper guys said, well, what do you think about that timeout? And I said, I don't care. If I don't want a timeout called down 30, I shouldn't be down 30.
Right.
But he knew why I called the earlier timeout. But back to our old playing days. Well, those were 2 loud games. That Washington State game was awesome. But so many loud home games. Senior night, 1998. I know I'm kind of stealing your podcast here, John.
This is exactly what we want, dude.
Okay,
keep going.
Senior night, 1998. We played Creighton. Of course, we won the championship. We knew we had won it a couple, wrapped it up, so we knew that. And we really felt like, because we probably would have gotten at large. So we were pretty sure it was our last home game in Redbird Arena. We had a top 30 RPI, and we knew we were going to win the tournament. We just kind of felt that way.
Right.
We knew. My point is, we knew it was our last game at home, and we won by. I could actually check. I don't know what we won by. We won by 13. And then we gave speeches after. We all seniors used to give speeches after the game.
We did too.
People still will talk about Rob Gibbons and his epic speech on senior night. And there was a lot of seniors. Mine was Short, I'm sure, and a couple other guys. But that was a great, fond memory. And what a lot of times guys get emotional on senior night. And I didn't understand this till I was a coach. We'd have guys at Vanderbilt crying before the game. We've had guys here tearing up before the game. And I will tell you, when there was no tears, no emotion, negative emotion, no nostalgia from one player on our entire team during that game, zero. And as the further I got in coaching, as I kind of looked back on it, it was just like we just knew we were going to keep winning, and we loved the Redbird Arena, but we just loved playing together. We were staying in the moment. We weren't emotional about it. We didn't cry. We just let's get another win and see what's next. And again, I'm so blessed to have gone here and to be coached by Coach Stallings and to be with the group of guys that I was with who are still my best friends in life. But that senior night with that group of guys was pretty special also. Yeah,
and for mine, Ricky, Randy, Gerard, and Sonny, those are my 5 seniors.
Yeah.
There's still, we were talking about it. I had to call Sonny yesterday to make sure I got my story right for the first part of the podcast. And so
Check your memory.
yeah, check the memory, and got on the phone with him, and he's like, "Oh, dude, I'm just getting into work. It's 6 a.m. It's 4 a.m. here." I'm like, "Yep." And he's like, "I got to be getting my pipe fitting on. I'm going to be in the 38th floor of this building." I'm like, "Cool." And he's like, "Oh crap, I'm 35 minutes late for work." Right? Because time went by. So yeah. All right. So let's keep rolling.
Good.
We're not here to talk about Jon Pemberton, even though Jon can talk a lot about himself.
That's why.
That's for sure.
That's why he was 35 minutes late, because you're the one playing.
Hey, dude, you're texting me this morning at 6 a.m. in the morning.
We want to talk about why?
Yeah, well, there might have been a dyslexic moment in there when I put 8 a.m. instead of 8 p.m., but hey.
8 a.m. Central Time? And you said, yes, 8 a.m. I'm like, okay. So I get on 8 a.m. I'm like, hey, where
the heck is
Pemberton?
Pemberton?
You had the dyslexia, so
Yeah.
I was up anyway. So it's all good.
Good. I'm glad. And, we had to cut a little segment out of yesterday's recording because I decided to talk about, we were talking about the transfer portal and the impact it's had on college basketball. And one of the things I got into were the 14 guys that transferred. Well, there's only actually 12. I put on 2 guys that are currently on the team that had transferred that really haven't transferred. So we had to cut that whole segment out. So, hey, this is ISU Redbirds podcast. This is not perfection.
Episode 1.
Yep, episode 1. All right, so let's talk. You also texted me about hooping against Steve Nash. That was another one you gave me.
Yeah, Steve Nash played him. And I went, and again, this goes to show you my memory is not great. And I could have texted a couple teammates and asked them. We played out there my freshman year. You want to remind
the fans where out there is?
Santa Clara. Yeah, Steve Nash is in Santa Clara. We play at Santa Clara the game before Christmas, and just get destroyed. And we flew straight home from there. And I remember getting on that plane also, John, and just being half depressed. Like, I got a 5-hour flight home. I get 2 days at home. We just got killed. I know when we come back, Coach Stalin's going to kill us more. But I don't remember Steve Nash in that game as much. And I even tried to find a box score. I'm sure he played. But I didn't want to say I played against him twice, but I'm 99% sure he played in that game. Mm-hmm. Then they played at Redbird Arena. His senior year in 95, 96. And he was kind of pudgy, He had 30, he had 20-something. He was really good. He was the main guy on the scouting report. And it was first time Jeff Wolburn, who is now the head coach of Denver, who was one of my college coaches, was doing the scouting report. First time I had heard this, he said, this kid Nash, he's got the ball on a string. And I'd never heard that before. I was like, what's that mean? And he's this and that. And I guarded him almost the entire game. And they beat us. They beat us in a close game. And again, I'm going back to my notes here.
2 points.
It's okay.
2 points.
2 points?
2.
Yeah, and I'm almost positive, again, he had the ball top of the key. I'm on him late in the game, and I think he gets a bucket. I don't remember exactly. But just kind of cool to see a guy like that go on to be one of the greatest point guards in NBA history, and the work ethic he had and how he transformed his body. But 2 really good games. Michael Olowokandi was the first pick of the draft. He played at Redbird Arena on Pacific. Now, he didn't turn out to be one of the best ever, but he was the number 1 draft pick that next year. That was my junior year, I believe. We beat them. They actually had a kid on their team from Bloomington High School. That's one of the reasons they came back here and played. I don't remember. 6'4", 6'5" kid, athletic. I don't remember his name.
Okay.
So another great player, of course, that came. But I will tell you, my toughest guard in my 4 years would be Chris Carr from Southern Illinois. Yeah. Now, I was a freshman and he was a senior. He hung 43 on us at home in a home win. I believe double overtime. That was my freshman year. But he was and he played in the NBA for 13 years. But he was so good. And as a freshman especially, so hard for me to guard. We had a lot of really good players. Anthony Parker, of course, Troy Hudson.
Yeah.
Rodney Buford, these guys are all NBA guys. The Evans kid from Wichita State played. So we had a lot of good wings that I guarded in my 4 years, but Chris Carr was a freshman. I had no answers for him. None.
I think that whole Arizona team went to the NBA, right?
Yeah.
No, that's literally the whole team.
Yeah, that team. They had won it in '97, and they all came back. Bibby was a sophomore, Dickerson, all those guys. Jason Terry was coming off. Jason Terry was actually the one who beat us. So, again, tie game, second half. He comes off the bench, comes in the game, and hits. They start pressing us, and again, we're down. So we started the entire year with Jamar Smiley and Skip Schaefbauer as our starting backcourt. Jamar Smiley, first team all-conference, third in the country in assists. Skip Schaefbauer, one of the best shooters in the country. Both those guys didn't play in the NCAA tournament, neither game.
Yeah.
Skip broke his leg at the conference tournament, which is incredibly memorable. Jamar throws his back out in between the conference tournament and the NCAA tournament. So we go in as the 8th seed, literally without our starting backcourt. So we play Tennessee in an overtime game, 45 minutes. I'm one of 3 players that played all 45 minutes. And then we have to follow it up. We got one day in between, of course. We got the Arizona game. Early in the Tennessee game, I jammed my thumb. It's one of those I'm guarding. I forget his name too, lefty wing. And my thumb gets caught, it's my left thumb, I think, gets caught in a jersey, and it jams it, and my thing, it just swells up like crazy. Adrenaline takes me through that. But the day in between, I couldn't even catch a ball. It was swollen. I couldn't catch a ball. And then we play Arizona again, tie game. They press us. We're without our backcourt. Kyle Cartmill and Steve Hansel are our starting backcourt for the game. Both really good players, but not true point guards. But Jason Terry comes off the bench. I think he had 5 threes in the second half, and he was a bench player. And like I said, that was when you look up at the scoreboard and you realize your career's over.
Yeah, I hope you have that game on VHS, because Dan's going to send me some VHS for me to bring over.
I think I do. I know I got the Tennessee game. I think I have that game. So I'll say this too. So I was with the Vancouver Grizzlies, my first year out is the NBA lockout in 1998. So I go up to training camp with the Grizzlies, and their first pick of the draft, which is the second pick of the draft, Mike Bibby. So I'm up there with the Grizzlies for a month, and I walk in, and, I'm this no-name, unsigned free agent rookie, and he's the number 2 pick in the draft. So I don't say much for the first couple of weeks. But about 2 weeks in, I'm older, man, of course. 2 weeks in, I was like, hey, man, do you realize you ended my career? I know you look familiar. Hey, thanks a lot. But that was good teams, good players, and we played against a lot of really good players.
Okay, that's a great stopping point right now. All right, so we are back with Dan Muller, and we have the last 2 minutes of overtime with Illinois State and Tennessee. Steve and I and John kind of previewed this. I know Dan previewed this today. We do want to say this as we're watching. There will be some times that we pause and rewind. Currently, right now, we're looking at the Abercrombie and Fitch model, Dan Muller, who has played 42 minutes. Now we're going to pause on the 1970s look by Chuck's Monster, Gibby. Now, Gibby, who has played 31 minutes, which is very impressive, looks like he's played 31 minutes. If we rewind out here a little bit, you do not look like you played 42 minutes. You look like you could be airbrushing on Abercrombie and Fitch. So I just had to get that started. So you should be able to hear this. You should be able to hear the sound and everything. So
I can. Yeah, I can. Steve Hansel.
There's Steve. Yep. There are some cut scenes that we just left in. Start talking about it, right? What are you thinking here?
Well, I'm not going to remember everything I'm thinking. I told you I did watch this. You've got it up on the YouTube page, so I'll be able to. I remember some of it. And first of all, the sweet uniforms and jerseys, of course. Kyle Cartmill with the turnover. Of course, we're trying to go to Rico Hill, who's the best player on the court, player of the year in the conference that year. Tony Harris with the ball. So I didn't remember this till I watched it. So we're in our zone, and this is an old point zone, that used to call it, that Dean Smith invented, that we played all 4 of my years. And they didn't shoot it great. We played some man, some zone in that game, but we finished the last 2 minutes in our zone. And Gibbons with an unbelievable defensive play.
Oh, my God.
I mean,
Big man proudness right there. Now, hold on. I'm going to pause for a second. We wanted to ask you, as I hit the pause button, we remember, and again, this is 22 years ago, we remember you guys playing a lot of man-to-man. So to see these last minutes, we were theorizing or speculating is probably a better word. Do you think that's because Kyle and Steve have 4 fouls each? Do you think you guys are in protection mode at this point? Because you can't go very much deeper into your bench, right?
Well, again, those 2 guys and myself played 45 minutes, and this is no offense to anybody coming off the bench, but when you lose your 2 starters,
right?
I don't know who we went big. When we had to take. Because I think I played the whole game Arizona until we were down big also. But when one of those 2 guys went out, we went quote-unquote big, which we never played big. Kenneth Pearson might have came in. Rico Hill went to the 3. So if one of those guys would have fouled out, it would have been a major issue. We probably played 95% man throughout that year.
Yeah.
So going zone here, especially at this point in the game, is because of fouls, a little bit of fatigue. And they didn't shoot it great, but mainly because of foul trouble, without a doubt. Like, again, I guarantee we played out of 45 minutes. I'm sure we played mostly man in this game.
Yeah, we did. But here coming through the last 4 minutes of the regulation and last 5 minutes here. So I hit play
on the interior.
Got
to get something going.
Again, trying to get that ball inside, baby.
They can break people down. Cartwheel.
Oh,
it's weird. It's always weird watching the game. Steve Hansel with the great and one.
Beautiful and one for Steve.
Yeah. And again, Steve with come being not the first starter of the year for him with Jamar out, but being a starter, playing 45 minutes, he played an unbelievable game in that game.
He did, battling cramps. Right, that was one of the things we talked about. He cramped up. Yeah, a lot of players would take themselves out in this day and age. Not Steve. He's battling through, right? Not calling current players soft. I'm just saying they don't play as much pain as,
That would be a factual statement and should not be taken in any other way.
Okay, thank you.
What was amazing, though, was he got the cramps, and then he ended up scoring the game-time shot like 1 minute later.
Right, in regulation?
In regulation.
Right.
No, right after he had the cramps.
I know. I remember at the timeouts, they're stretching them, drinking water. Absolutely. So, again, this is a zone. It's kind of a matchup, kind of a 2-3. It looks like this, looks like that, but the okay, so they score there. We score again.
Yeah.
And then the controversy of the no charge call is the next play defensively.
Now, we're
just running our motion.
Leroy goes down the lane, left-handed, beautiful move. Now, we do want to point something out that we think there's a conspiracy theory, and we're going to call this conspiracy theory. This should be the video that's played at the end of the beginning of all ISU Redbird games instead of the shot. If you guys had played defense on the next play, you and Kyle wouldn't be on the shot. It'd be this man right here. And as a former big, this is what we should have had, a big up there, not 2 little guards that, got to throw the game and get themselves the last shot.
Not only big, but drive left to the rim from the 3-point line and give you the finger roll like Gervin. Big L. So Big L, that was his nickname.
Big L.
Big L, drive it left, physical. And so he comes down and the charge is coming up here. But you're right. But I would argue that we did play defense and the rest of the didn't. Go ahead and play this. Let's see. And also this picture. Go ahead and play this because Harris is going to drive it down the lane and Leroy's going to take the charge.
Yell when you want the pause.
Well, it'll be right when
Tennessee.
he's about to throw it up top. He's going to drive left.
Harris disrupts the dish.
Right there.
That's a charge.
Yeah.
And here, that picture was in Sports Illustrated. Literally, that picture with him, Leroy like this, and Harris charging like the next magazine. That picture was there. It's awesome. I'll try to find it for you. But like I said, we played defense. Big L took that charge.
You did.
And kid made a nice play.
Yeah.
And then
the other thing we talked about was there's no one calling timeouts here at all.
No
Okay.
timeout again.
And right now, if this was 2022, the refs would have stopped the game, right? To see how much time would have been on there. You guys would have had 5 timeouts during these things.
Brutal. Yeah, they
no
would stop
timeouts. Yeah.
to make sure they didn't lose 0.1 seconds. They did it the right way, or block charge, timeouts. Yeah.
But I would argue this as somebody that had a game stolen from him. I would rather them take the time to get it right than to have Terrence Green step 3 feet over the 3-point line and give him 3 points to beat us by 1 in Horton's last game, right?
You don't remember that at all, do you? No.
Pity party of one right here, this guy right here. And so
I hear
absolutely, right? And so
I hear you. There's just too many. There's too. You're right about that. Okay, so we got to find the line where we're crossing too many. Just like you said, 5 stoppages of play. Time. Did he step on the line? But it's just too much.
Yeah.
Because as I watched this game, Steve, I was surprised too. And I tried to look and see if we had a timeout left. Maybe we didn't have any.
We don't have any timeouts left.
Okay.
Right.
So that's why.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Hidden play.
No timeout. They go up 1.
Not able to contest the great penetration by Harris.
Ball rolls out, so the referee's got to go grab it. We're exhausted. They're exhausted. Oh, here it is, another look at it with Leroy taking the charge. Good press here, smart. Again, our 2 starting guards are out, so they have a little pressure here against us.
Now, you will see in the highlight of this tape, I do pause it a little bit and show.
I saw that.
Yeah, Tennessee.
I saw that. So this was really just trying to get the ball to Rico. Hello?
All I got to say is, the Tennessee coach is over there on the other side with 4s up, right? Because you're saying Rico, they would have been should have been probably focused on you and Rico, right? And trying to keep.
Well, no. The thing is to focus on Rico, but not give up a layup. And you got to credit Rico, player of the year, leading scorer. He had a really good game. I hadn't scored a ton again. My thumb was jacked. I didn't even shoot the ball in the second half, I don't think, more than once. And so the focus is on Rico like it should be. But to his credit, as we play it here,
play.
And he trusts his teammates. He runs into the wall, throws it to Kyle Cartmill, drops it off for the easiest layup, easiest game winning in the history of basketball. And that shot almost went in.
It did.
And I can tell you I was just exhausted after that.
This is riveting TV right here. And
Episode 1.
Episode 1. Let's play a different look. There it is. Got it.
The NCAA tournament for somebody who gets their last opportunity. Just a fabulous finish. Muller just found a terrific spot on the floor.
You can see you and Steve and Kyle. Every one of your heads up are looking to find that player, right? And that was just
so
tremendous.
I could tell you. So I looked at the clock. And again, we were trained by Coach Stallings. Mm-hmm. We were seniors, most of us. I mean, junior, seniors. We had a lot of miles, on our tires. But we had also a lot of practice, a lot of situations in practice. And as soon as I scored, I sprinted back as fast as possible. I looked at the clock to see how much time was left really quickly. And then you turn your head, you find the ball, and as you can see, I contested the shot. but you got to stay in the moment, and that's a credit to Coach Stallings and the training, and a credit to the teammates. And thank goodness he didn't make that, but it was
thank goodness.
Pretty special day.
Yeah, great day. So that is our interview with Dan Muller. Dan, thank you. Anytime you want to come back, you know my number. So we are going to wrap this up. And this is a wrap for episode 1. That's a cue to my engineer to play the clapping.
Oh. It's not playing.
Oh.
There you go.
You must have done a great job. Thank you, guys. Awesome.